Morning. Thursday, October 23rd, 2025. I'm Larissa. My Fat Bitch Diary. Here we are. Here we are. My stringy hair. My bedhead. Fat bitch still in bed. Drinking from skulls. Mm. Mm. So yesterday. Oh my god. I'm sorry. I have an itch. Oh, yesterday I just couldn't take it. Sitting around here in the house and I can't. Since the injury, and the injury I'm talking about in particular here is when I tore the muscle in my back and I was denied care in the Catholic emergency room. And since that injury, I am unable to lift as much weight as I used to be able to lift. Right? My body doesn't work in the same way as it used to. And sure, yesterday there's stuff I could have done around here, but I can't, there's things I can't do by myself anymore. Right? So I was just going crazy sitting here in the house, like with things that need done that I can't do. Makes me crazy. Makes me crazy. So eventually, I went into, when I got closer to the time when I knew Omar would be heading home, so the house wouldn't be left unattended, because every time our house is left unattended for a long period of time, meaning more than a few hours, it gets broken into. Um, anyway, I went to the studio to work, to do stuff, so I wasn't just like sitting around doing nothing, right? 'Cause at 46, like, as much as I enjoy playing ball with my dog, like, that is not how I want to spend the majority of my time, you know? I mean, I love my dog and everything, but geez. Anyway, so I made a quiche yesterday. I made a quiche. It's in the refrigerator, and we'll have that. We'll have that, so I don't have to cook tonight. I'll have that. We can eat that all damn day. It's enough food for all day. Eat it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And have that quiche. And oh, it's got spinach and peppers. And then when I use fresh spinach instead of blanching the spinach first, right? I put in dehydrated vegetables. So the grocery store that I go to frequently, their bulk section, they freeze or they dehydrate vegetables, right? That's a good use. I mean, because not everything gets sold. Not all produce gets sold, and before it gets to the point where you can't sell it, then if you chop it down and dehydrate it, then you can still have a sellable product. I think it's a really smart thing for them to do. Anyway, I buy that and I mix it in. I mix it in with my veggie quiche, and then it's like adding a ton more vegetables into the quiche, and the moisture that comes out of the spinach rehydrates those vegetables, right? In the quiche. Yeah. On my experimental bread that I made the other day, it worked out really, really well. There's some things that I'll do a little different next time. So it's almost like, well, what was experimental about it? There was a whole bunch of things. Like the dough was a lot wetter than I normally make my bread dough. I mean, it was very wet. It was very, very wet. And I didn't add any oil. So it was more similar to a baguette recipe, right? Very similar. Although baguette is not even as is not not as wet as what I left this dough be. And then I added in the psyllium husk, right, with this wet dough. The flavor was very, very different on this dough. This wetter dough, it was a little more sour, more similar to sourdough, which I thought was interesting because it wasn't, it wasn't an extended fermentation or anything, right? Yeah, but I baked it. When I baked it, I baked it with steam in, with a chafing dish with water to steam it, like you do with baguette for the crust. Anyway, the bread turned out good. It did. So, anyway. Oh, I have cramps. I was telling Omar this month I ovulated on the left side, and I don't ovulate. I ovulate on the left side a couple times a year, right? Like maybe once a quarter. It's more like maybe 2 or 3 times a year on the left side. And I feel when I ovulate, because I have because of my tipped uterus and all that stuff. And anyway, I know I ovulated on the left side the first time I was pregnant. When I was pregnant with the twins, I know I ovulated on the left side. Anyway, I think I have a cyst over there, and I was having cramping yesterday, and I was expecting to start bleeding, and I have started spotting, so the cyst has burst, and I'm just kind of uncomfortable. And the rain never started, but the humidity is still hanging, and uh, this time of year, this time of year is just so uncomfortable for me physically because of the humidity and my arthritis. And oh, yeah. So it becomes a meditation practice, almost like being in the house and sitting with the pain and the reduced mobility and ability to do things, to lift things. I'm not an invalid, and I'm not, disabled, right? Like, I can wipe my own ass, right? But it's like I used to be able to do a lot more heavy labor, and I did a lot more heavy labor for a very, very long time. You know, Uh, uh, when we when we lived in Santa Rosa, I did all the yard work, and we had a pretty extensive garden, and I did all of the yard work. And when we first moved here, you know, I was trimming the hedges when we first moved in. I wouldn't even attempt to do it now, right? Oh my God, since that injury, I'm just glad. I'm just glad I've got myself back to the point where I don't need the cane every day. I used the cane once for the first time in months. I used it a couple weeks ago. And last time I went and got my nails done because it was the rain. It was a rainy day, off and on rainy, and the chair that I sit in when they do my toes, I have trouble getting out of it on a good day. So I took my cane just to make sure I could get out of the chair. It did help. But, I'm just grateful to not be needing the cane every day, you know? So in the studio yesterday, I got I got a bunch of stuff done that I was working on. So I've been working on these jewelry sets. So I have this series of jewelry. It's called Old Keys Still Work. And I've talked about it. I collect skeleton keys. I like skeleton keys. They're kind of creepy, and they're cool, like aesthetically. I like the aesthetic of them. They're all a little bit different, and some have numbers stamped on them, and some have kind of snarly looking teeth, and some of them have been like really, really used and have been repaired and things. They're cool. They're cool, and handling them is interesting. Something that has been handled heavily by people, right? Daily kind of use, and there's an intimacy to that. Um, I feel the same way about buttons. You know, there's an intimacy, something that's been handled, fondled by, repeatedly. So these keys, they're my ode to Gen X, right? Like these were known as the latchkey generation here in the United States. I don't know if that translates abroad, but you know, when we were given a key to hang around our neck to come home and let ourselves in, because parents were at work or whatever. Oh, yeah. So, and we're getting old. So these old keys still work, and they're necklaces. There's earrings too, but the focus are the necklaces. So I got 3 sets done, and the one necklace, it's so cool. It's like a big collar, and I got the earrings finished for that. I got all the earring hooks made yesterday, and all of the earrings put together. And then I have another set the set with the marbles, made with marble. It's so heavy. It's so cool. Like, oh, they're so nice and round. I want to put them in my mouth. I want to suck on them. The weight is so satisfying of the necklace. It's like, I got this albatross around my neck. I got this weight around my neck, this marble. I got this stone around my neck. It's a heavy piece, literally and figuratively. And then the third set, the one that I made entirely yesterday, has the jasper and serpentine, and my neck is sore. I don't know if I slept on it funny or what, but like, I don't know. Maybe I have cancer. I'm gonna die. I don't know. A lot of people would be happy if I were gone. Make a lot of people's lives easier if I were gone. I'm sure. Omar's life would be a lot easier if I was gone. Yeah. Anyway, um, so it has a key as like a pendant, and then it has these other stones, and then I made leather lanyard band on either side and knotted it in the back with a tassel, and like lanyard. There was a camp craft that was popular among Gen X, and you made keychains with it, right? Like that's what everybody made their lanyard for, a keychain. So I've made this leather braided lanyard necklace with this key, with this skeleton key. So it's pretty nifty. It came out really nice, and the earrings look nice. And so now the last two that I'm working on. Oh, and I finished. There's 2 pair of just earrings, standalone earrings that are just simple, because they're kind of long. You know, I have a pair that I made for myself, and there's a matching necklace, but the long ones with the big heavy necklace, it's a little bit much. Anyway, I wear one. I usually wear like one or the other. Like I wear the necklace, or I wear the earrings. Right. Um, but I made 2 sets of standalone earrings. Just simple, real simple. Just the key with a stone, on the hooks. And I make Tibetan ear hooks. They're round. That's what I make. I make Tibetan ear hooks. They're wire wrapped. I tumbled those, and they're all nice and firm. So the last 2 necklaces, one I'm working on right now, it's making me crazy. These tiny little Baltic amber chips. They're so small, and the holes that are drilled in them they're so small. Super, super tiny, and I'm using this Softflex cable. And I was talking to Omar about it last night because I had a picture. I take pictures of them, and I look at them on the TV because they're enlarged and everything when I come home, to kind of like think about stuff. Um, this cable. It's a really like an amazing thing. And, the difference between cable and wire. So a wire is one continuous long piece of metal, right? But a cable is lots of very fine wires wound together to make like a metal rope, right? And this cable, this Softflex product, it's the brand is called Softflex. It's stainless steel cable, very very fine, that is coated in plastic. And so I have 3 gauges: fine, medium, and heavy. And I'm using the fine. And there's also an extra fine, but I don't have any of that right now. Um, but I'm using finest gauge to go through these tiny little chips, these tiny little amber chips. And because I was like, oh, well, I thought the holes were a little bit bigger, and I had these eye pins, or I have these eye pins, and I was going to wire wrap these tiny little chips onto this chain. Well, the hole is too fine on the chain, so I can't get the wire through. Um, so I'm having to like, I had to change up my design, right? But like I was, you have something, a tiny little like cable, and you're trying to stick it through this tiny little hole, and it's like so many of them, right? And my eyes are still really, really good, but I could probably benefit from a pair of jeweler's glasses for this. That's how tiny the holes are. Very tiny. Like stone setting glasses, the goggle, the visor. Probably benefit from that. Yeah. Yeah. But I had to walk away from it. I'm like, oh, God, time to go home. Time to go home. I hurt, and I'm tired of looking at these tiny little holes. Tiny, tiny little holes. Yeah. Oh. So I'll probably go back into the gallery today. Omar's taking a couple days off because he's just been working like a mule. He's been working like a mule, and he needs a rest. I said to him, so what are you going to do? He's like, nothing. I'm like, all right. You sit around, do nothing. That's good. But he said he's gonna wash the poopy out of Brody's bum today, so he can get on the bed. Because Brody keeps trying to get up on the bed, and we're like, no, sir. You still have stinky poopy bum. He doesn't have diarrhea anymore, so he's had 2 days of normal poopies. Thank the baby Jesus for Brody's normal poopies. Oh my God. So he can get that washed out of his bum now. He hates getting showered, and when he gets upset, that causes him to have diarrhea when he gets all upset, right? That's like one of the things that triggers it, is him getting all anxious, which is what I think triggered it to begin with. I think his Brody day was a little bit much for him. I feel bad now. We thought we were taking him out on an adventure, and he's like, no, I just want to stay in my house. I don't want to go see the ocean. Wild Brodies don't go on the ocean. Wild Brodies live in the trees. So, anyway. I'm washing the poopies out of his bum. Omar's going to do that so he can snuggle with him. Oh, stinky dog shit. Yeah. I said, Omar, you want to you should go get a massage. Go get a massage. He's like, I don't know, maybe I'll think about it. Oh my God. I hurt so bad. I have cramps. Oh, I was saying earlier about it being like a meditation, having to sit with the change in my physical ability, you know. It's easy to become consumed with resentment and bitterness. It is. And some days I am better than others, you know. On the days when my pain level is lower, it's easier, right? On the days when my pain level is higher and the situation is like it was yesterday where I'm like, I really need to do that, but I can't lift that to move it over there, you know? And when you're looking at a bunch of stuff like that, it's like, oh, well, what do I do with my time so that I'm not just sitting here feeling angry about this? Because then it comes back to, oh, well, the injury and the injustice. And it's a loop that while it's truth, it doesn't behoove me to sit and dwell on it. Right. Oh, when I first opened the gallery, one of, in Saratoga, and I started offering special events. One of the special events I tried to offer that nobody wanted to come do um, was a chronic pain circle. Because living with chronic pain, there's just things that people who don't live with chronic pain, you just don't, you just it's not this isn't a judgment where I'm saying, oh, you should think about this, blah blah, because I don't think you should, you know. But the fact is, there's things that you don't when you're not in that situation, right? Um, and that is the luxury of not being in that situation, right? So, you know, I wanted to have a space where people could express those things, you know. Nobody wanted to come to that. It's like a support group, but the way I designed it was around anonymity. So as long as you have three or more people, oh, deductive reasoning, you could probably figure out. Say as long as you have five or more people in the group, you can pretty much guarantee anonymity with this process. So the process was when you'd come in, you'd write on a piece of paper something that has been challenging for you, that somebody without chronic pain wouldn't think about, that you've been dealing with, that's been hard, and then you fold it up and put it into a bowl, right? Or a bag or some sort of receptacle. And then once everybody has done that, shake it up and then pass it around, and everybody pulls out one of these folded pieces of paper that are identical pieces of paper other than what's written on them, and then take turns reading what's on the paper. And you know, and in that way it's being shared, your challenge is being shared in an anonymous way, and with people who in a space who can accept it and understand it with you. And so it becomes something that is shared and not carried alone, but without the um, fear of judgment, um, or any any shame that you might be feeling around it. Like, because it's like it's hard, you know, just talking about, oh, I can't carry the laundry basket down the stairs because I'm afraid I'm going to fall because it's because of the because my arm doesn't work the same anymore, you know. And that's kind of embarrassing, right? Anyway, just shit like that. Just shit like that. But nobody was interested in coming, right? So I do it for myself, right? Like, what do I do in the moments when that's happening? You know, when I catch myself in that loop of 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 my discomfort, you know, feeding on itself. Um, I acknowledge what's happening. It's like, okay, Larissa, this is what's going on here. Let's change, let's reframe. Let's focus our attention someplace else, on something else, right? So it's why I just couldn't take it anymore. I went into the gallery, went into the studio yesterday to do stuff. I'd go out and do more physical stuff, but out here on the property, like if I get injured when I'm here by myself, that's dangerous, right? Um, and also because we've had trespassers on the property, when we first moved here, I did go out by myself on the property, but I won't do it now, right? And it's the same thing like for me going out in public since I've been attacked in public, like, um, and not only have I been attacked in public, but there's been no justice repercussions for that. Like it's open season. Like it's okay to attack me. The police, nobody cares, right? So I have to keep that in mind every time I go out. Um, and you know, going out for the purpose of exercise, physical activity, a vulnerable that's a vulnerable activity, right? Like that leaves me vulnerable. And so, you know, anyway, anyway. So I try to maintain safety for myself because I can't be with Omar all the time, and besides, I can't count on him for that safety, right? The most safety I can count on him for or expect from him is that because he's a man, when we're out in public together, there are less instances of me being approached or anyone having direct aggression towards me, right? Than when I'm alone. So it's like a prevention. But if someone were to like, I have no expectation of him fighting for me, right? You know, I have no expectation of that. Um, so I just try to be very conscious of my surroundings and um, selective of where I go and when, you know, because running isn't so much of an option for me anymore. But that's the other thing. Like I've never been a runner. My lizard brain responds in freezing. Right. Like that has always been the response when I've been in dangerous situations, more so than anything else. Not in every situation, but frequently. And it has served me. Like I don't know. Well, I don't know if it served me or not. Like in the situation with the guy that in Santa Rosa who, eventually held me hostage at one point and dumped blood in my house and all that shit. Like, because he assaulted me a number of times and a number of times in public. Um, and it was hard, like, for me to reconcile, like, the freezing behavior. And I didn't know what it was until I went through a program for survivors with BayWar, Bay Area Women Against Rape. It's a it's an organization, um, and they talked like in the program. It talked about the different types of response to assault that happen and why they happen, the brain, the psyche's defense, right, kind of thing. And identifying, what your response is, and mine is usually freezing. So it's like you become kind of your psyche numbs you emotionally and paralyzes you in the moment. And and it happens if it happens enough, a lot of people dissociate. Um, where you kind of detach yourself from your physical body. And oh, that was really hard for me to work through. It's still kind of difficult to talk about, but it's like it's not something you necessarily need to talk about every day. But for me, it's something that I have to face and look at on the days when I am feeling a lot of physical pain and having trouble um, completing tasks that I used to be able to do physically easily, right? Like carrying a heavy basket of laundry down the stairs. Anyway, I do what I can do, you know? I do what I can do, which is still a lot. And so I come back to, okay, when you get into the loop of what you can't do, can't do, can't do, can't do, it's like, let's make a list of things you can do. And then you can find gratitude, right? I can still do this. I have gratitude for that, right? Anyway, I don't really want to think about this anymore. Just drink my tea and have my cramps and whatever.